Honorable Chief Minister, Dr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma ji, Director Professor Sitaram ji, faculty members, staff members, dear students. Let me say what a great pleasure it is to be amongst all of you, to look at you, and in a way it makes me nostalgic, it makes me think back perhaps a day when I was sitting somewhere out there. And it's really a very great pleasure to be here. Now, when I would have been sitting back there, I would have asked myself, okay, today one more minister is coming and he's going to give one more speech which we'll all have to listen to. So here's the good news. I don't have a speech. So I'll tell you what I do have. I have a piece of paper, this big, which I sat early in the morning and I asked myself, what could I say which would be relevant to you? What would be my message if I were in your place? So I want to speak very briefly on two subjects, and then very honestly, I would much rather, listen to what interests you. Please feel free to ask me anything you want, and I will reply with whatever I want. So I see today in a way as the voice of experience, that's me, dealing with the sources of energy, that's you. And hopefully at the end of the day, I will walk away with more energy, and some of that experience maybe will rub off onto you. So what really was in my mind as I think of all of you? I know I have come to an IIT and I heard what the director and the chief minister said. IITs are actually among the best recognized Indian brands in the world. I mean, if you go anywhere in the world, and I've lived 40 years in other countries, one thing which everybody knows, they all know IITs. And in fact, what the director raised, the possibility of IITs going out, it is it's something which in my mind should have happened a long time ago. Today, the new education policy provides for it, and I hope one day in the very not distant future, we will actually see it happen, and I hope very much that you are one of the IITs whose footprints extend abroad. So, but when we think IIT, we think engineering, right? But I want you to think of engineering not as a profession, not as a profession alone. I want you to think of engineering as a mentality. Because to me, a non-engineer, but one who's traveled around in the world, an engineer actually has a problem-solving approach. In engineering, if you don't know it, you don't think it doesn't exist. You think you haven't found it. And to my mind, today, the leadership which engineering institutions and engineering products can give to the country is to actually look at our hundreds and thousands of problems and tell yourself, I can find some answer to it. It will never ever be a complete answer, but it will be an answer. And what I saw the time I spent, being exposed to some of the innovations and the startup ideas and suggestions you have, I saw answers out there. I saw answers to problems which have existed, in our lives, which maybe in other institutions or maybe in another time, people would not have given that much thought, mind space to solving those issues. So, and I say this because I truly believe today, I can almost feel the country shifting gears, that when we talk today about a startup policy, when we talk about a skill policy, when we look at Prime Minister's research fellows, when we think of an innovation mission, when we see that, startups are not just a nice catchy word which happens in other people's countries. It is actually in front of your eyes. You can see, young people like you develop ideas, take it into the business world, make it happen. And that's really a state of society which didn't exist when I was your age, and I truly envy you for it. Now, the second thought which occurred to me, and I say this today as a minister in the government, what is it that we can do to actually, I would say, spread that problem-solving, engineering frame of mind? We can do a lot really by focusing on the enablers. It starts with very basics. Today, the engagement I had before this was a conference called Nadi 3.0. It was about how rivers have shaped civilization's connectivity. But I look at something as basic as water. Water is life. And yet, we have a situation 75 years after independence where a large number of households do not get water in their homes. Just as till a few years ago, a large number of houses didn't get power in their homes. And, to a lot of people, it is something which troubles you. I think to some people, they just accept it. But as someone who traveled around in the world, I can tell you it hurts you. The idea that others have come that far ahead, that very basic things were not available in our country. And when I think of the changes in my life and that of my generation, why these last 8 years from 2014 have been very important for us is that long-standing issues that we knew existed, we did not approach it with that engineering frame of mind that I'm speaking to you about. We did not have a leader who said, okay, in my tenure, I will make sure every house has a power connection. Every house has a water connection. People will own homes. That I will ensure everybody goes to school, particularly all girls go to school. If there is an impediment to going to school, of which toilets were a big one, I will fix it. I will ensure once they go to school that there is a skilling opportunity for them. That there is from that there are employment opportunities, there are innovation opportunities. And you actually then see, once you start, approach our country, our society with its age-old problems, you then see how these now suddenly start to change. So a lot of what we are trying to do today, there is an old saying that for a hungry person, you can give them fish, but if you really want to help them, teach them fishing. So my first E to you today was engineering. My second E to you today is enabling. That if you can actually enable a society to have the capabilities, to have the mindset to sort its problems, then there's no limit to the change that we can do. I also have a third E to describe our challenges. It's employment. Now, again, you'd say, okay, what's so great about it? It's so obvious. But think about the debates in our society. You have a debate, how do we distribute what we have better? It's a very legitimate debate. You have a debate, how do we produce more? How should growth be hastened? Completely understandable. But if we want to get our society right, it is never completely about production. It is never completely about distribution. To find the right balance, it is actually about what impact it has on employment. And there too, there is a change which is happening. We've had growth.